Hello everybody! Today I'm going to be trying to complete the Pizza Tower Lap 3 mod. For all of those unaware, the Lap 3 mod makes it so after running through a level, I can go through a pizza portal, which causes Pizza Face to chase after me. If I'm caught, I instantly lose and have to restart the entire level. There is also a key that can be found in every level that I'll collect. The final thing is that I'm going to get a P rank and the key in a single run on every single level. This just means I have to collect everything in a stage, which I can do before lap 3, and I can never lose my combo, which is the real challenge. How I'll do this is that I'll talk about the hard rooms of a level and explain how I beat them, and then show the full level completion after that. I also want to mention I'm doing this completely blind, so I don't know any strategies going in. I made all these strategies I'm going to use myself. I will also talk about levels in the order that I beat them, not the order that they're found in. One final thing, Pizza Face's hitbox is surprisingly small, basically being a little larger than his nose. This allows a little more wiggle room, and that's also why it seems like I should have died when I didn't. Since we have 22 levels to get through, let's get started. The first stage of the game is John Gutter. A common theme in lap 3s is that most of the stage is easy except for 1 or 2 rooms. That is true for this level as well. In this stage, the first hard room is the room where I have to go back and forth. To escape, I start by running to the left, turning around and drifting once I pass the mini John, then do another drift off the next ledge. If I time this drift long, I'll either over or undershoot and immediately lose. Then I climb the wall and drift as late as I can so I'm touching the left wall. Now I let go of all buttons, and once I hit the floor, I'll move slightly forwards automatically. And if I time the drift correctly, I should be right on top of the ladder. Then I can climb down half the ladder, jump off and immediately grab to cancel my upwards momentum. Once I land on the ground, I grab again, and then turn around before hitting the wall so I don't accidentally grab onto it. The second room isn't nearly as bad, but I need to grab the key here. How I did it was by running and jumping onto the right wall, jumping off once I was at the key, and then falling back onto the exit of the room. With that explained, I'll show the full level now. The second level I completed was Bloodsauce Dungeon. Surprisingly, Bloodsauce Dungeon was super easy. The only room that is slightly hard is when I have to climb a wall and jump at the right time to knock a pencil out of the way. The key is also easy to get. I just have to jump off a wall, dive towards the ground, and then jump back onto the main path. With that said, I'll show the level. The third level is Pizzascape, and it starts out with a problematic room. It's a very cramped room that I have to go back and forth in, and it also has the key in it. The solution I had was to grab it and slide, and hold the down key to dive off the ledge once I get off of it. Once I get to the very bottom of the room, I can wall climb, jump off the wall and grab the key, then jump off the other wall back onto the first wall, then fall to the ground. Once on the ground, I just have to run to the left to avoid Pizza Face, roll through the passage, and drift before finally diving to the exit of the room. The only other slightly difficult room is this one room where I have to turn around to get higher up. If I'm not careful and don't jump, I'll run into Pizza Face and have to start the entire level over again. Now it's time for the full run again. The final level on floor 1 is Ancient Cheese. This is by far the hardest level so far. In the first difficult room, the first little while is easy, but I have to time a tight jump after climbing a short ledge. If I miss this, there isn't a way to recover that I know of. After making this jump, I have to swap walls, then jump over Pizza Face to get to the exit. The next room is also pretty difficult. I have to make a tight jump over Pizza Face, and then once I get to the far right of the room, I have to stop moving. Once Pizza Face gets close enough, I can then jump over him and leave the room. The final hard room is the room with the key. What I originally planned to do was climb into the area and then go into the third secret. This doesn't actually work though, since this secret requires me to carry a bomb, which is pretty slow. The actual solution I found was to run under it, wall climb up, and then slide under the overhang. Then I can wall climb and jump over Pizza Face, jump again, grab, and once I'm over the hole I need to turn around. Then all I have to do is fall down the tunnel and slide to the exit. Falling into the narrow tunnel is the hard part. I over or undershot it so many times, and every time that happened, I had to replay the entire 5-minute long level to have one more chance. Anyways, now I'll show the gameplay. With the entirety of floor 1 completed, it's time to start floor 2 with Oregano Desert. Oregano Desert is somehow even easier than Bloodsauce Dungeon. In Bloodsauce, I at least had to be careful and slightly change my level routing. In Oregano Desert, I can play the level completely normally except for grabbing the key, but the key is also super easy to get. All I have to do is open up the route on a previous lap, then enter and then immediately exit a Pizza Mart. This will reset Pizza Face to the door I just exited, and now all I have to do is go left, grab the key, jump over Pizza Face, and run to the exit. The only other slightly notable thing with this level is that in one room, I barely avoid Pizza Face. With that lackluster level done, it's time for Wasteyard. Wasteyard is barely any harder than Oregano Desert. It currently has the record for the most rooms with new routes though, but they're also not really that hard. To get the key in the first room, I simply just have to go up and around this pathway, and as long as I'm going fast enough, I'll dodge Pizza Face easily. This level also adds the Ghost of Pillar John, which is basically a slower version of Pizza Face that will speed up if it's too far from me. It's very easy to work around though. The next rerouted room I can solve by just leaving through the left exit and then re-entering. The third room was actually a slight challenge when routing it. If I went down the winding corridor, I'd get caught by Pizza Face super quickly. The solution was to ram into the top right corner of the room a few times before then going down the path. The next room has a very close call, but if I'm going quick enough, I can roll under Pizza Face, drift, and then get to the exit. The final room is the room where I get the ghost transformation. I have to slow down and stop a lot to make sure Pizza Face can't cut me off when I pass him, but this room is also easy. Let's start the footage. The third level I completed on floor 2 was Fun Farm. Getting the key in the first room is pretty easy. Just drop down, wait for Pizza Face to get close, then climb up the wall and jump over him before running to the exit. The next difficult room requires a decently timed jump off a small ledge. By this point I'm running at Mach 4, so it's a bit tricky to time, but manageable. Then I'll automatically climb the wall, and just running off the ledge will get me to the exit. In the next room I need to avoid grabbing Mortha Chicken, since he'll just slow me down. Once I get to the very right of the room, I need to ram into the top right corner 4 times to let Pizza Face catch up a little, before running under him again. The rest of the rooms are super easy, so I'll just show the recording. The final level on this floor is Fast Food Saloon. In the first hard room, I started by simply ground slamming down this hole, running left, and grabbing an enemy. By grabbing an enemy, I won't be pushed up by the fan anymore. Once I fall far enough down, I punch the enemy and start running to the left, while climbing, and jumping over Pizza Face twice in a row, before diving to the exit. The only other hard part of the stage is getting the key without losing my P rank. To talk about this, I actually need to go back before lap 3. When I went through this room before pizza time started, I actually made sure to not destroy some cheese blocks. Then during lap 1 and 2, I had to make sure to not destroy them again. Now, back to lap 3. I avoid destroying them again and run to the exit of the room, making sure one chicken bandito is alive. Then I leave and re-enter the room, grab the key, destroy the cheese blocks to keep my combo going, then leave and re-enter the room through the other door. Then all I have to do is run back to the left, kill the chicken bandito to keep my combo going, and run to the level's exit. With all that said, I'll show the full lap. Golf is somehow both super frustrating and super easy at the same time. It takes over 7 minutes just to even get to lap 3, so every failure at this level is just a slog. The first room of golf only needs one well-timed drift to get to the exit. The second room starts pretty easy, only needing to jump over Pizza Face, but during this next part, I need to hold right to slow down, and then jump into the present box to skip the part on the left. If I missed this, I wouldn't be able to avoid Pizza Face on the way back. The final hard part about this stage is the key. For some reason, just finding where it was difficult for me to do. After finding it though, it requires me to wall climb up, and then quickly run right, grab and then press left to cancel all momentum except downwards momentum. And once I land, run to the exit. The rest of the stage is basically a straight line, but that didn't stop me from making 2 stupid mistakes that could have ruined the run. Time for the winning run again. The second level of this floor is pretty easy. In the first room, the barrel is now broken, so instead of taking the normal route, I can just wall climb a few times and use the present to launch out of the room. The next important room is inside the ship. To get through it, I need to run to the left and drift into the hole. Once I land, I need to grab it and immediately slide to get to Mach 3. Then I can drift down some more holes and slide at the last drift to get under a ledge. The rest of the room is simple. After getting out of the ship, I need to get the key. To do this, I just run to the left, slide off the ledge, and wait for Pizza Face to catch up. Then I can climb up the wall and run all the way to the left, and grab a clock to refresh my combo a little. Then I can jump over Pizza Face, dive into an enemy to fully refresh my combo, and run over the water and grab the key. After this is a simple matter of jumping over Pizza Face and running to the exit. With that said, let's get to the run. Deep Dish 9's first room can be unforgiving if you're not ready for it. You need to move immediately to the right, crawl under the ledge, and run out the exit. The next difficult room requires me to jump over Pizza Face 4 times. The first time jumping over him is simple. The second one I have to wait a second so I'm high enough to jump over him. Then I have to jump over the olive so I don't get caught in it, and then jump onto the wall and over Pizza Face again. Then all I have to do is climb up one last wall, jump over Pizza Face, and ride the rocket to the exit. The next room starts pretty easily, but has a nasty trick at the end. After riding the rocket, I need to jump down into this small gap and dive back down. This will let me get to Mach 4 before entering the teleportal. After getting through the teleportal, I need to make a blind jump onto an olive, and then ride it to the exit. The next room isn't a break though. I need to grab and fall into a small hole, before going straight right to fall into another hole. Then I can grab left to fall into one more hole, and grab again before hitting the ground so I won't splat against it. Then I can walk down, slide under the button before drifting off the small ledge. To finish the room, I just need to drift a few more times and enter the rocket. After this, I'm back at the entrance, but I still need to get the key before I can leave. To do this, I just need to grab the rocket, ride all the way to the right, turn around twice and jump onto this ledge. Once up there, I can run all the way to the right, jump over an olive onto a wall, enter the teleportal, and this will bring me all the way back to the entrance again. Time for the full run now. The final level for floor 3 is Gnome Forest. You might notice that I actually only have an S rank during this run, not a P rank. There's a good reason for that, but I'll get to that towards the end of the level. Do you remember what I said about golf? That it was easy but frustrating only because of its length? Gnome Forest is hard and frustrating. It is one of the longest levels in the game, taking about 7 minutes to even get to lap 3. It doesn't help that the lap 3 itself is pretty hard, mainly because I have to use Gustavo and Brick in this stage. They are much slower than Peppino, making it harder to go over or under Pizza Face. The first room shows off their problems pretty well. The first little bit is easy. Bounce off some mushrooms, kick Brick into an enemy so it won't hurt me, and bounce off some more mushrooms. The hard part is after these mushrooms. I have to avoid landing on an enemy. If I land on the enemy, I'll bounce off it and won't make it to the exit. Once I land, I can run to the left and jump onto the mushrooms. Then I need to start going right, and time my double jump just right to go over a pizza face and land on the door so I can go through it immediately. The next hard room is just as annoying. I have to run right, jump onto this ladder, and jump off as quick as I can. Then I need to do this again. If I jump off too quickly, I won't make it up the ledge, and if I jump too late, Pizza Face will catch me. Then I need to bounce off a mushroom, move left, and land directly on this dash panel to run to the exit on the right. The next few rooms are easy, and I get to swap back to Peppino. The first hard room with Peppino is the key room. I need to jump into the small tunnel and quickly go back and forth to get the key. If I miss the hole or bonk once, there's very little chance that I can recover from this. After this, I can run straight to the exit, and then pass it, because I still need to get the last secret for the P rank. The secret itself is easy, but by this point, I'm as nervous as I could ever be. Once I complete the secret, I can run over to the exit and finish the stage. With that out of the way, let's see the full lap 3. The first level on floor 4 is also a level featuring Gustavo and Brick. It's Pig City. The first room with Gustavo is pretty easy, just keep running. If I stop or bonk into a wall, I will get caught by Pizza Face in a later part of the room, so it's important to not mess up these jumps. The next room is mostly easy as well. Once I drop down to this lower section though, I need to wait for a Brick to catch up. Once she catches up, I can use her to double jump up to the top. If I use the bars to climb up, that would be way too slow and I would be caught. The rest of the room is easy, and I get to swap back to Peppino. In the next room, I need to climb up and make sure to not accidentally grab the rat. Then I can jump off the wall, drift, climb up another wall, and then drift into the small hole and barely pass Pizza Face. Then I need to drift again, climb up the wall while avoiding the rat, and then time a jump on this really small ledge to start climbing the next wall without bonking. The rest of the level is a straight line, so I'll show the gameplay now. The second level is Refrigerator-Refridador-Freezerator, and I no longer have to use Gustavo and Brick anymore. The first room is pretty easy. I just need to run to the right and perform a super jump. I somehow nearly messed it up and barely avoided Pizza Face. This super jump will bring me all the way to the exit of the room. To get the key, all I need to do is jump over this ramp into this hole and grab the key. The rest of the rooms are basically straight lines, with minimal turns, so I'll just show the footage. Oh shit is the third level on this floor, and it is pretty easy. When I travel in these pipes, Pizza Face will momentarily disappear, so it makes getting around him pretty easy. The first hard room requires a lot of fast falls to escape. I need to drop down this area with a ton of Mr. Pinches. If I get too close to one, I'll get caught by them, and then caught by Pizza Face shortly after. Once I escape into the pipe, the rest of that room is easy. The next room starts with a section where I get really far away from Pizza Face. Using this huge lead, I can jump into the water to get the key, quickly build up speed, and then super jump up to the exit. The rest of the rooms are easy, so I'll just show the run. The final level of floor 4 is in fact not Pizzascare. The final level is supposed to be Peppibot Factory, but I got so frustrated with that level that I skipped it. I'll go back and do it later though. Pizzascare is the first level of floor 5. Every floor 5 level has Pizza Face wearing a costume, so that's why he'll look different on these levels. The first difficult room is the key room. My solution was to climb up and run to the very left of the room. Then I drift into the key, drift again and climb up the wall. Then I run back to the entrance of the room, slide into this hole, and get turned into a ball. I can then just barely roll under Pizza Face, and then I'm supposed to roll to the end of the room and bonk into a wall. Instead, I accidentally fell into a small hole, and had the closest possible encounter with Pizza Face possible. I'm not sure how I even survived. The rest of the room just requires 2 drifts to escape. The only other interesting part of this level is one of the last rooms. Instead of taking the normal route, I can slide under this gap and enter the treasure room, then leave where I entered from. I do this to change where Pizza Face is chasing me from, since he would cut me off if I didn't do this. Then it's a simple run to the exit, so I'll just show the video. The second level, the final floors don't make a sound. Almost every single room is stupidly easy in this level. The only two interesting things are how I have a shotgun, so I can't use my grab to speed up anymore, and how there are animatronics I need to get rid of or I lose. The animatronics are always in easy locations to shoot though, so they're no problem. The only slightly difficult room is the key room, where I need to wall climb, drift into a slide, then drift into the exit. Since every other room I just completed normally, I'll just show you everything. The last 5 levels of the game are their own absolute hell in their own unique little ways. The first of the 5 I did was Peppibot Factory, the final level on floor 4. Most of the lap 3 is pretty easy until the last 3 rooms. In the first room I get the pizza box transformation, which lets me jump around 10 times in the air. I have to go under the first platform to get the key, which is easy to do, but also easy to forget about. Other than that, the room is very uneventful. The next room, on the other hand, is super annoying. When I land, I need to immediately roll to the right to push the enemies out of the way. Once I fall to the lower floor, I can grab a Peppibot, make sure I'm on a cheese block so it opens, then punch the Peppibot. On the third floor, I just need to grab to the left and open the floor, and then slide to the right to avoid Pizza Face and escape. The final room is one of the hardest rooms in the entire game. I need to immediately run to the left and start jumping into this small hole as soon as possible. I then need to land and start jumping again. By landing, I reset my jump count for the pizza box transformation, as well as reset the jump height to its maximum. I then need to jump up to the second platform and land, then jump to the third. By this point, Pizza Face should have caught up, so I need to get to the priest, lose the pizza box transformation, and do some well-timed wall jumps up to the top of the room where the exit is. With that all said, time for the full level. The next level on floor 5 is War. Never mind, the next level is the Crumbling Tower of Pizza. Normally, the Crumbling Tower of Pizza is the final level, but War seems pretty insurmountable, so I'll come back to it later. The thing about this level is that it takes 4 minutes to even do a single lap of the tower, and Pizzaface will chase me on lap 2 instead of 3. Thankfully, this is one of 2 levels that there isn't a key, so I don't have to worry about that. The first difficult room is pretty early into the level. I need to make sure I'm going at Mach 4 when I enter this room, and drift immediately to fall into this hole. I need to do a few more well-timed drifts, and I can barely roll under Pizzaface and drift one more time to the exit. The next hard room isn't actually that hard. I need to drift off a small ledge into this hole, and then fast fall into this hole by grabbing and then turning around, since drifting would be too slow. The next hard room requires me to go super fast to escape Pizzaface. Once I fall into these mushrooms, I need to grab to the right to barely avoid Pizzaface. The next room is also difficult. I need to go down under the grind rail, then jump into the rocket, turn around, and go up to avoid Pizzaface. Then I can jump off the rocket, wait a second, and then jump over Pizzaface again. The next hard room requires me to go fairly fast. I usually drift twice here to get rid of this goblin, and then balk into the ceiling once. Then I drop under Pizzaface and drift off the ledge into the hole to escape. The final difficult room, I need to run all the way to the right, and wait a few seconds for Pizzaface to catch up. Then I can jump over him, go back to the left, jump over him again, and run away. The rest of the lap is easy, so I'll just show it. Did you really think that was it? This mod is called Lap 3 Deluxe, not Lap 2 Deluxe. I need to do one final lap around the tower as it crumbles down behind me. Thankfully, if I make a mistake and lose on lap 3, I get a checkpoint that will restart me at the start of lap 3 with my P rank still intact. Unlike lap 2, there are only 3 difficult rooms. In the first of these rooms, I need to go as fast as I can. Even if I go as fast as I can, the debris will catch up with me, and I'll lose all of my visibility, but I just need to jump on this small ledge and dive into the exit. Immediately upon entering the next room, I need to jump over a banana so I don't get caught in the debris. Then I can climb up and drop down again, before doing a super jump off the small ledge and running to the exit. The final hard room is the very next room. I need to wall jump off some small ledges to keep ahead of the debris in the first part, and at the end of the room, I need to drift off the ledge into the water to escape. The rest of the rooms are easy from this point on. All I need to do is make sure to dive into this hole at the very end and not overshoot it. With that all said, let's show the entirety of lap 3. With the Crumbling Tower of Pizza done, there are only 2 options left. I can either do the 8-minute long level where I need to play perfectly, or the 10-minute long level where the room order is randomized and I can't practice it. War is by far one of the hardest levels in this mod, and took me 16 hours to beat. It's all because of one simple reason. At the start of lap 1, after picking up the shotgun, a timer will start, and I need to beat all 3 laps under this time limit. I can destroy these computers to get a slight time boost, but I can only destroy these computers once. Adding up all of the computer's timers, I have 7 minutes and 10 seconds to do 3 laps around the stage, and if I mess it up, I have to restart from the very beginning. I spend each lap doing different things. Since I only get to use the shotgun on lap 1, I spend that lap opening up all the paths and destroying all the blocks. I also collect Jerome the Janitor on the first lap, but don't grab the treasure. Since I don't have the shotgun anymore on lap 2, I get my grab back, letting me have faster and more precise movement. So I spend this lap doing all of the secrets. Then, during lap 3, Pizza Face spawns in, so I spend the lap trying to survive. This is actually the only level I didn't make my route for lap 3. I already knew how hard this stage was going to be, I didn't feel like trying to find the most optimal route for this stage. So shout out to Rando. His channel will be linked in the description. Lap 3 doesn't have too many routing changes because of Pizza Face, but I will go over the few rooms that are slightly changed. In this room, if I slow down at all, I will get caught, but that is barely a change. In the very next room, I have to wait for Pizza Face to catch up so I can go under him, wasting some time. The next changed room has the key, so instead of heading left to the exit, I have to run to the right and grab the key, then dive under Pizza Face when returning. What was changed in the next room was that I need to wait a very short bit, run into the dash panel, then climb up the wall and super jump as soon as possible to escape. Then later in the room, I need to wait for Pizza Face to catch up, so I can jump over him and escape. The final changed room, I can run all the way to the very right, and finally open up the treasure room. I didn't want to collect it on a previous lap, since I was going to have to head here during the final lap anyway to avoid Pizza Face. Then I can grab the treasure, get a P rank, leave, and roll under Pizza Face one last time. With that said, I would show the footage, but I will quickly mention that I can't use the original lap 3 music since it's copyrighted. If you would like to hear the original, it will be linked in the description, but I will be replacing it with the normal lap 3 theme that plays in every other level. This also has the unfortunate side effect of removing all game audio for lap 3, but now it's time to show the run. After completing War, a TV screen shows up telling me to check the locked door in Gustavo's garage. When arriving, I can now open the door and access one more thing this mod has to offer, Goldface. Goldface is a secret boss, and while fighting him, I need to run away in the hardest parts of every previous level. Quick heads up, I forgot to record the audio during this boss fight, so there won't be any background sounds other than the music I put in. The order of these rooms I have to run from Goldface in are random. The only way to actually hurt Goldface is to get a combo of 10, which will charge a super taunt. Then I need to wait for him to get close, and I can use the super taunt to damage him once. Some of the rooms are pretty difficult though. Out of all the room layouts, there are only 4 I would consider really hard though. There's the John Gutter room that requires precise drifts and a quick fall at the end. The second room is from Deep Dish 9. It's the room with the teleporter and blind jump. Getting the timing for this jump really sucks. The next room is the Pizzascape room. Since I don't enter from a door, it makes it harder to dive down and jump up to the left to get to the exit. The final room is from Ancient Cheese, and still requires a tight jump into a narrow path upwards. During the winning attempt, I screwed up the route and thought I lost, but somehow accidentally did whatever the hell this is, and saved the run. Now, let's show the run. There's actually one last level left to do before I'm finally done. Secrets of the World. Secrets of the World actually has several problems when it comes to this challenge. The most apparent one is that there isn't a garage that I can enter to practice this stage. Every other stage had a practice mode where I could try each individual room as much as I wanted and learn them, but not this one. The second problem is just how long the stage is. It is a combination of all 57 secret rooms, 3 from each stage, not including the Crumbling Tower of Pizza, since that stage didn't have secrets. Since there are so many secrets, this stage takes 9 minutes to do a single lap. Thankfully, the lap question mark portal is open from the very start, so I only need to run through the level once. The final problem is that every time I play this level, the rooms are randomly selected. That means every time I play this level, I don't know what room I'll have to do, if it'll be easy or hard, or even what direction to go when I enter it. The only way to get good at this stage is to memorize the layouts of all the rooms and get good at reacting. Since this stage is so long, I'm not going to talk about each room's problems, since that would take way too long, but I can go over the 4 types of strategies I used. Some rooms simply just need the strategy of just going fast, sometimes skipping a few points. Some rooms I just need to wait a moment for Pizza Face to catch up so I can go around him. The third type of room is more convoluted. I need to jump off the stage and lure Pizza Face to the edge. I will then respawn at the start of the room, and with Pizza Face farther away, I then have to try and complete the room. The final type of room are the rooms where I need to completely change the route of the room. There's very few of these rooms, I'd only say 2 in total, but they require really fast movement and a pretty good route to get through. With that all said, let's start the run. With every stage finally completed, I'm finally done with this super long video. What's that? There's a second character who controls completely differently and I need to do all the stages again with them? Well, here we go again! If a stage isn't harder or any different from when I played it as Peppino, instead of re-explaining it, I'll just skip over the explanation and play the footage. Also, I'm just gonna cover all the easy stages in a row. I also did these levels pretty out of order, but I'll still cover them in the order I beat them, skipping hard stages of course. If you don't want to watch all this, there's a timestamp in the description, or you can just skip past the chapter Domino Effect. With that out of the way, time for a bunch of easy levels. With those 14 levels done, there are only 8 left to do. The first of these stages is Fun Farm. The first difficult room in Fun Farm is this room with the huge chasms. I'm supposed to use Mort the chicken to latch onto the hooks, but grabbing Mort would slow me down a lot, and I wouldn't be able to escape Pizza Face in the next room. When I did this as Peppino, I could just jump and wall climb up a wall at the end of the chasm, but as the Noiise, I need a bit of interesting movement. I need a Crusher Fly. To do this, I need to do a Crusher Jump, which is done by pressing up and jump at the same time. Then during the Crusher Jump, I can grab to cancel it, which will then allow me to do another Crusher Jump, and I can repeat this to fly across the gaps. In the next room, I just need to stall for a little bit so I can go under Pizza Face, then stall one more time to get to the exit. With that all out of the way, time for the level. The next stage is Deep Dish 9. There are only 2 notable changes from when I did this stage with Peppino. In this room, I can't maintain my speed into the teleportal because of some differences in the Noise's movement, so I can't do the blind jump. Instead of doing the blind jump though, I can just crush or fly over instead, and land on the exit door. Then the only other change was after getting the key, I actually grabbed the treasure instead of heading back to the start. I did this because it's slightly more efficient, and that it was harder to get into the teleporter quick enough as the Noiise. Now, let's see the full lap. The third difficult stage is Ancient Cheese. The first room requires some pretty tight movement. After getting up to this ledge, I need a tornado spin off the ledge, and once I land, I need to stop spinning. Then I can jump into the wall, bounce off of it, and grab over Pizza Face. I then need to start another tornado spin, stop it once I land, and then rocket jump up to the exit. The second room starts pretty easy, just 2 easy jumps over Pizza Face. After bouncing into this wall though, I need to time a tight crusher jump into this narrow crevice, then alternate between grabbing and crusher jumping to extend up to the exit. The rest of the rooms are pretty easy, so I'll show the full run. The fourth difficult level is Bloodsauce Dungeon. This stage was one of the easiest stages with Peppino, but with the Noiise, it is incredibly difficult. The main problem with this stage is just how vertical it is. The Noiise is excellent at going down quickly, but when going up, he has very few options. I have to either use wall bounces, which are better for shorter heights, or super jumps if I need to go really high up. I constantly need to be starting and stopping super jumps, but that by itself isn't too bad. Adding Pizza Face is what actually makes it hard, since now I need to make sure my super jumps happen as quickly as possible. There are 2 rooms I consider to be really difficult. In this room, I need to do 2 super jumps very quickly, then slow down a little so Pizza Face catches up, so I can wall bounce over him, avoid the boiling sauce, and then super jump over him again. Then I need to super jump and make a quick escape out of the room. In the next room, I need to wall bounce 3 times, grab over some boiling sauce, super jump up twice, tornado spin into the key, uppercut to the main path, and quickly jump over Pizza Face a few times. Other than that, this stage is manageable, so I'll show you it. The 5th difficult stage I completed was the Crumbling Tower of Pizza. During lap 2, there's only one room that has changed. Instead of riding the rocket, I found it easier to start a super jump, wait for Pizza Face to get close, and then jump over him twice. With that out of the way, I'll show the lap. During lap 3, there were only 2 rooms that were changed. In this room, I struggled to avoid getting hit by the first cannonball on the way back to the left for some reason, and it caused me to lose a lot of runs. The other thing is how in this room, I must grab, and then once I am past the ramp, I can jump, since the ramp would slow me back down to Mach 3 instead of Mach 4, and I'm not sure if I could make it to the end without being at Mach 4. With that all said, I'll show the footage. The sixth stage I did was Secrets of the World. This stage is mostly the same as when I did it as Peppino, but in the rooms where I would jump off the stage to get Pizza Face further away, instead I would Crusher Fly instead. I could have still used the jumping off the stage strategy, but Crusher Flying is way cooler. Anyways, I'll show the level now. The 7th stage I had to do was War. Who would have guessed the 7.5-minute level, where I need to play perfectly the entire time, would be difficult for both characters. Yet again, the main problem with this stage isn't the routing, it's just playing well enough to still have time on the timer. Just like with Peppino, the first lap is used to collect Jerome the Janitor, as well as destroying a lot of blocks and opening up pathways. The second lap is used to collect all 3 secrets, and during the final lap, Pizza Face will begin chasing me, and I can collect the key and treasure. I don't need to stop nearly as much as when I did as Peppino, since the Noiise can move down winding corridors pretty quickly. In this one room, I can't manage to go quick enough, so I slow down and wait for Pizza Face to catch up. Then I can go over him, and then Crusher fly up to the exit to skip going to the rocket on the left. Other than that, the stage is pretty similar, so I'll show it. With the final key collected again, I can go to Noisette's garage and unlock the door, bringing me back to Goldface. Just like last time, the order the rooms are is completely randomized, and to hurt the boss, I need to get a combo of 10 to super taunt Goldface. Out of all the rooms, there are 5 that are changed from when I did them as Peppino. The first of these is the Rocket Room in Deep Dish 9. After going in the teleportal, I need to Crusher Fly over the remaining gap to get to the exit. The second difficult room is Pizzascape. It's pretty similar to when I did it with Peppino, but the Noise's more chaotic movement made it more difficult for me. The next room was John Gutter. Instead of drifting and landing directly on top of the ladder, I have to move myself onto it and make sure to not hold the run button so I don't move off of it. Then I can climb off the ladder and either tornado spin or grab to the exit. The fourth difficult room was the room from Ancient Cheese. I need to tornado spin off this ledge, wall bounce to go over Goldface, and then do a super jump once I land. The final difficult room was Fun Farm, and it's all because of one electric potato in the way. It's in a super annoying spot, so I have to start a tornado spin at the right time to go under it. Anyways, with all those rooms explained, time for the run. With every lap 3 completed twice, that is Pizza Tower Lap 3 Deluxe fully completed. I totally didn't miss doing the achievements because they weren't in the version of the mod I played. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about how difficult these levels are. If you enjoyed this, it'd help if you liked and subscribed, and don't forget to check out Rand's channel. Anyways, I'll see you next time.